Cool. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Universal Design Fast Facts series. Today we'll be covering session 5 of this series. It is how to prepare content for people who are blind. But before starting, probably you are wondering how many sessions are those and how did we start? So I'm going to tell you a small, quick story. We started a long time ago with about 6 hours of face-to-face session that is hands-on. We called it Universal Design, Web and Document Access. And we are still doing those sessions or 6 hours workshop. We do them about 3 times a year. But we thought it is difficult for faculty and staff members to commit to 6 hours altogether. So we came to the idea to break it down to 12 sessions. And this is our actually second year, and today we'll be covering this topic. My name is Khalil Iksher. I am the Assistive Technology Specialist at UNC Charlotte, and with me here today is Katie Monti. She is the ADA Project Coordinator. So let's get moving. Let's see what's Okay, so by the end of this workshop, you should be able to define blindness. You will be able also to define assistive technology used by people who are blind. And you'll be able to identify how people who are blind perceive information using assistive technology. And of course, with this information, you will have a better understanding and you'll be able to prepare documents and electronic content for people who are blind. So who is the blind? A blind is a person who cannot see. They cannot see at all. Normally in the Office of Disability Services, we rely on documentation from the doctor that they are blind. So some of their characteristics that they can perceive or see visual information using their eye. That's why they rely in other senses like hearing and touching, or using the cane, or probably using a service dog and so forth. Of course, if they are using the computer, they will use the keyboard, not the mouse, because if they use the mouse, they will need to see and click in icons, but they will have to use the keyboard. And if we talk about the keyboard, we talk about screen reader. Screen reader is a software that normally people who are blind use. And the main purpose of that software is to convert digital text into synthesized speech, which means that the screen reader will read everything on the screen and even provide information. For example, if you click right arrow, something happens. If you click this shortcut, something else would happen. So normally these software come with hundreds of shortcuts, and the more the people who are blind remember or memorize these shortcuts, the easier and the quicker the use of the computer become. So with this information, how can we help? The first thing, since we mentioned digital text, make sure that you provide text that is editable, or text that can be typed or can be selected, copy, pasted, modifiable sometimes. These texts are accessible by screen reader, unlike the other kind of text that is actually an image, maybe a screenshot that was taken and placed on a documentation, or probably a scan of PDF. If you cannot select the text, if you cannot highlight the text, if you cannot edit the text, this text is not accessible by the screen reader and will not be accessible by people who are blind. So this is my first important point. Comes next is using ready-made format settings. Sometimes it is called styles, for example, in Microsoft Word. And these ready-made format are used to structure your document. It is a hierarchical structure. For example, you start with the title of the topic, then you go through subtitles, okay, or headings, heading level 2, heading level 3, and each heading could have a subheading, heading level 2, then heading level 2 could have a subheading, heading level 3. Also, these format can provide the correct code for the screen reader. For example, if you use bullet points or number points, or if you use links or list, If you use the format, then it will be readable by the screen reader. Most of the error that we see in this point, that people come, for example, to the title, make it bold and larger. Well, visually, that is appealing, probably appealing. We can see that it is a title, but the screen reader does not see that and will not convey that this is a title. So that's why it is very important to use these structures. One more benefit by using the ready-made format is that the person who's blind will be able to jump from heading to heading or from link to link. If it was just a normal text, the screen reader will not allow them to jump from heading to heading. They can have a list of headings. Okay, for example, if they have a thesis that consists of hundreds of topics, they can have this listed, and they can jump to the correct heading, then start reading beneath it. So that's why it's very important. It will speed them up if you use these headings. Now, if you are an HTML coding, if you are using a coding, these are the normal elements that you use, HTML elements. For example, P for paragraph, UL for unordered list, OL for ordered list, the list itself, heading level 1, 2, and 3 up to 6. Make sure always, if you are using coding, to close the code as you finish from the text that need to be coded. Otherwise, the screen reader will continue conveying the wrong heading or the wrong information for the end user. One more thing, if you are building a table, presenting your data using a table, make sure that you specify or highlight the column header and the row header. The column header is and the column header and the row header is what explains the table and provide the rational relation between the header and between the column and the row. If you just leave it with some text, it will be difficult to convey the information, especially if you have a complex table. And again, if you are using HTML coding, this is the code that you use. We recommend using table summaries to explain what's the table for the blind. Then you use TR or TH. TH is for table header, and you continue with the code. Now, we also provide images and charts, graphic to convey information. Now, if you are using these images, make sure that you associate them with alternative text. We don't cover all of that in detail in this workshop, in this presentation. It is just 15 minutes just to give you highlights and ideas of how to make document accessible. But it is very important to provide an alt text for any image that you provide. If you do not do that, and let's assume, especially if your image is linked, the screen reader will have to convey something for the blind, and mostly it will convey the file name. The file name is not only the file name, which is, for example, image.img. It actually starts from the root all the way to the path, to the end of the path, which is the file name. And that's why, so the screen reader will read everything. For example, it will read underscore, it will read backslash, forward slash, it will read the question mark, everything in that text, which is very annoying, and you are not conveying anything. So that's why it is very important to use an alt text to give an idea of what's going on in that image. And we will be providing another session that is focusing on alt text and how to pick the alt text and what alt text is exactly. So I'll move on to the next slide. So what assistive technology do they use? We talked about screen reader. Screen reader is the main one that they use. There are many types of them. For example, NVDA and JAWS are, they work in Windows operating system. NVDA is free. JAWS is for money. JAWS is more popular so far than NVDA. Although NVDA is getting popular, it is the number of users who use NVDA is increasing every day. It is free. It is also good with math. So just to let you know, JAWS is still great and works really very good, especially in Windows operating system, and it is the popular one. VoiceOver works with Mac operating system. Chromebox works with Chromebook. So depend on the system. There are probably other screen reader. They work in the same idea. If you create something that is accessible and was accessible with one of them, it is also accessible with the other one. It is not a bad idea to test using multiple ones, but in general, this is like in my work, I use JAWS most of the time. We give you here a quick hint. If you create an electronic document or electronic content, just an idea, just launch the screen reader, turn off the screen and take the mouse away and see if you can navigate your document using the keyboard and the audio only that you hear from the computer. Okay, let's talk about JAWS. JAWS is what we use here in Canvas. That's why we are focusing a little bit on JAWS, and it will help us understand how people who are blind receive information. So the JAWS stands for Job Access with Speech. It is a screen reader that reads the computer and explains everything, and it has hundreds of shortcuts. It is one of the products of Freedom Scientific. We own here 10 licenses. The reason that we've never had more than 7 users or 7 or 8 users who are blind or low vision. So we have 10 concurrent licenses. It is installed in every computer that is potentially used by students, like computer labs, in the library, and so forth. If you want to use one of them, you just go to one of these labs and launch the software. It will launch, and you can use it to test your document. Also, the company provides 40-minute trial version. Okay, so you can install the software. It will work for 40 minutes. Then if you want to gain another 40 minutes, you will have to restart your computer. And that is really good because it is okay for the company, and you won't need more than 40 minutes to examine your document or your electronic document or website if it is accessible or not. Also, one of the other products that we use along with JAWS is ZoomText. ZoomText is a screen magnifier. We covered it last session. And it is a good idea to launch them both because you will use some of the feature that is in ZoomText while navigating using JAWS. Just an idea. Also, Freedom Scientific provides a lot of free online training if anybody would like to get in deep with webinar, with the JAWS. Okay, so they provide webinars and training. At this moment, I'll just quickly provide a quick demo about this software. So let me launch the software first. Let's just
JAWS Professional UDFFS-5- how to prepare content for people who are blind 2- PowerPoint title text box graphic.
Okay, can you hear my computer? Okay, great. So I'm going to go to the website, which I prepared here. This website.
Jim's Cafe at Innisport Google Chrome. Jim's Cafe at Innisport page has 8 headings and 13 links.
Okay, so this website is provided by Freedom Scientific for training purpose. And if you noticed when I launched the software or launched the page, just made it like the forefront application, JAWS announced how many links and how many headings does the page has. Okay, and that is very useful because the moment the person who's blind hears that, they will start building structure in their mind, and it will help them immediately navigate and jump to the required area. So what I'm going to use, I'm going to click down arrow.
Link, heading level 1 graphic Jim's Cafe at Innisport.
So we can see that they made this logo as heading level 1. All right, so this is how they structured. Jim's Cafe is the heading level 1, and they didn't want to repeat that. They used the logo itself as heading level 1.
Link. Jim's Cafe was founded in 1946 by Jim Smith. At that time, Jim was a sergeant in the United States Army who had just finished a tour of duty in Europe.
So clicking down arrow will read line by line, and line is not what you see. You can see in my screen, the line is really wide, but it is actually the number of characters for the screen reader. Anyways, I'll not go in detail, but just to show you, especially with math, they will click right arrow to read character by character.
I-M''S. space C-A-F-E.
Or they click Control right arrow to read the word by word. Of course, if they click backward, they will read the opposite way, just backward.
Was founded in 1946.
Okay, so this is mostly what they use, the arrow keys. Also, they use the tab key. The tab key jumps from link to link or from form to form, like text form or radio buttons and so forth. So if I click the tab, I'm expecting that it will jump to a reputation of quality service.
Tab, reputation for quality service, same page link.
So it skipped every text. It jumps immediately to the first link on the list. Then it will jump to the next link, which is the dishes.
Tab, dishes and appetizers, same page link.
And of course, if they click Shift Tab, they will go up.
Shift Tab, reputation for quality service, same page link.
So these that's like the most common two keys that they use. There are other keys, for example, jumping from paragraph to paragraph by clicking the P. I'll just go up first just to show you.
Jim's Cafe at Innisport.
So if I click B, it will jump to Jim's Cafe.
P.
Oh.
P. Jim's Cafe at Innisport. P.
Okay, so we need
Alt
to go
tab,
out.
UDFFS-5- how to prepare content for P. Alt tab, Jim's Cafe at Innisport - Google Chrome, Jim's Cafe at Innisport. Heading level 1 graphic, Jim's Cafe at Innisport. Jim's Cafe was for taking a second mortgage for over 60.
So I have been clicking the P for paragraph and it was jumping from paragraph to paragraph. Now, what happens if you do not close the paragraph tag? If you are using HTML coding, it will continue, it will combine whatever comes next. For example, if I don't have the ending here of the paragraph, it will just continue reading and combine these
Jim's
two
Cafe at
paragraphs.
Innisport.
And that is not good. I mean, it will be confusing for the end user. They don't see, remember? So you have to give them that end or closing tag for the paragraph or for the heading. So let's jump to heading. We already heard that this file has headings. So heading, if I click the H, it will jump to the first heading on the page.
Reputation for quality service, heading level 2 clickable.
And we can see that this is heading level 2 because heading level 1 is the main title. People who are in accessibility always recommend that you do not use heading level 1 except once because it represents the title of your document. If you use it again, that would be confusing. So you use heading level 1 to represent the topic of your document or the title of your document. Then heading level 2 structurally comes underneath it. And that's why reputation of a quality service is heading level 2. If I click again H, let's see what happens.
Dishes and appetizers, heading level 2 clickable.
So this is another topic that has the same level of the first one. If I click another H.
Poultry, heading level 3.
So poultry is a subheading of dishes and appetizers, and that's why it took heading level 3. Now, this is very useful because as the user is using screen reader, they are building in their mind the structure that you provided. And that's why it is very important to provide an appropriate hierarchy structure for your document. Also, just to show you how quicker they become using the heading, they can click Insert F, let me remember, I guess F6.
Heading list dialog, headings list view, dishes and appetizers, :2, 3 of 8. To move to items, use the arrow keys.
So they can now have a list of headings, and they can go through these headings and jump exactly to the heading where they want to read. So let's do that quickly.
Poultry, :3. Beef, :3. Seafood, :3. Driving directions, :2.
Let's see the driving selection.
Enter. Heading level 2 driving directions clickable.
So they jumped immediately to driving selection directions. Now, if they click the down arrow, they will start listening to the paragraph underneath it.
Land. Jim's Cafe is located in downtown Innisport on 1800 Main St. To get there from Interstate.
So this is how mostly they use the screen reader. One more element that is very important is using proper naming for the links. So let's see, I'm going to go all the way up. This is common in any browser, even in Apple computers, by clicking the Control Home.
Jim's Cafe at Innisport.
It will jump to the top. So I'm going to click U for unvisited links.
Same page link, reputation for quality service. Same page link dishes and appetizers.
So let's click that one. So it jumped.
Page has 8 headings and 13 links.
Yeah, so it jumped to dishes and appetizers. That could be also a link to an outsource, maybe another website or another Google document or anything. So it's just a normal link. Now, the reason I click dishes does just to show you the visited links. So if you click V for visited.
There are no visited links on this page.
Okay, let's go all the way
Jim's
up.
Cafe at Innisport. There are no visited links on this page.
So it did not notice that dishes are visited. So let's just go out.
Alt tab, JAWS Professional, Alt tab, UDFFS-5- how to prepare, Alt tab, Jim's Cafe at Innisport. There are no visited links on this page.
Interesting. Maybe I have to refresh.
F5, Jim's Cafe at Innisport Google Chrome. Jim's Cafe at Innisport. Visited same page link dishes and appetizers.
Yeah. So so the point here that when they visit, like they have the habit to visit a specific website and they click a specific link, they know that they already visited that link and they can click the V to jump to that link which was visited and immediately click on it and jump to that web page or any link. And just like in heading, they can have a list of links. Insert F7.
Links list dialog. Links list view. Dishes and appetizers. 2 of 13. To move to items, use the arrow keys.
So if there are, let's say, 100 of links, they can go through them through this list. And wherever they want to jump, they can click on and they will jump to that link. So let's try links.
Driving links to sites of interest. Enter.
Yeah, it didn't work because this is just a demo website. I don't think that. Yeah, it should jump here. For some reason, it didn't jump. Let's try
Jim's
again.
Cafe at Innisport Google Chrome. Link. Jim's Cafe.
So the idea is providing a proper naming as well for links. So one of the bad habits that we see is using click here or read me or read more or something like that. And imagine when the user clicks that
JAWS version 2000.
That link, okay, link list, and they see click here, click here, click here on top of each other. They have no meaning at all for them. They will have to visit the link in order to understand the meaning, and that takes longer time. That's why one of the best practices do not use click here or click me, all right? Instead, use one of the verbs, like in here, repetition for quality service, even if it is in the middle of the sentence, and that works very well. I hope that explains. And actually, we have a workshop that speaks about headings or links, and even some practice for the participants. So one last thing in this demo is using graphics. So if I click G.
Jim's Cafe at Innisport heading level 1.
Okay, so we know that this is a logo.
Map to Jim's Cafe. Click the image to see a larger version with more detail. Link graphic.
Okay, we know that this has an alt text as well, and it is a graphic. It is requesting if you want to click on this link. I'm not sure it will work because this page is just a fake.
FS-Site Factory logo graphic.
So we are now down here seeing this logo, and it is a logo of Freedom Scientific Site Factory. Now listen to the other two and see what happens.
Freedom Scientific logo link graphic.
So this is a Freedom Scientific logo, which is absolutely good.
Images/image 5 link graphic.
This one does not have an alt text. That's why it is using the file name, which was
Freedom Images/image 5 link graphic.
It was image5/graphic. All right. So this one doesn't have a file an alt text. That is why it is pronouncing or providing the file name, and that's why we should provide an alt text for our images as much as possible. This is it for this demo. I'm going to close JAWS and go back to the slides.
Taskbar list.
While Khalil is doing that, I'll just add what I think he's explained really well. As you can see, to use a screen reader takes a lot of training and a lot of practice, and those who are proficient with it can use them quite quickly, and the speed in which it reads the screen is also really, really fast, which is interesting to observe. But just to look up the hours on a website of a restaurant, if it all said click here, click here, click here, you can imagine the amount of time it would take just to find out when a restaurant opens and closes. But from an academic standpoint, when you are managing 4 to 5 courses, and you're blind, and all of the material and all of the content that you have to go over, you can imagine it is more time consuming, even in the best of circumstances, for someone who's blind. But the ability to use the headings and navigate more quickly is truly can be a real factor in determining whether a student who's blind is successful or not in academics. So it's extremely important.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get back here. Okay, so we went through all of these commands, and that actually concludes our workshop. Just remember, blind user rely on screen reader when navigating electronic content. That's why you should make sure that your content can be navigated using the keyboard and the screen reader without the mouse. All right. And to make sure, just simply use type text that can be selected. Use the ready-made format that is normally provided by software like Microsoft Word and Google Documents. You will see them at the top, and these are modifiable in the meaning that if you don't like the font or the fonts or the line spacing or the paragraph spacing or the font type, you can change them and customize your document to meet a specific standard or even your own standard. And that's why you don't need to change them each time. You just set them one time. They are accessible for people who are blind, and they are also usable for you and for all your students. That's why we call that universal design. It's not for the benefit of someone who's with disability. It is the benefit for you as an author. It is the benefit of everyone who's receiving your documents. Make sure that your tables have designed with column and row headers, and we have a specific section for that. Of course, if you are using images, provide alternative text. We suggest that you run the screen reader, practice it. There's more in the screen reader. We cover just the main functions that is used by someone who's blind, and that can help you as well if you want to use it to see if your document is accessible. Just see if you can jump from heading to heading. If it can announce the headings, it can give you the list of headings or list of links and so forth. And thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording and we are open for your questions. Let me stop that first.
Thank you, Sherman. That's a good idea to close your eyes. There's some things that there's some awareness, from blind organizations that they'll say, lose